Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. I want to start with a couple of questions. Do you ever find yourself thinking about the same regrets or the mistakes that you've made in your life over and over, sort of replaying the scene, ruminating about what you should have done differently, what you didn't do differently, dwelling on what could have been or should have been? If you find yourself replaying difficult situations or things that you regret, you are not alone. So in today's video, I'm sharing how you can become empowered by your regrets, right? Because really they give us an opportunity to take different actions if we look at them in the right light. I'm also going to be sharing with you 4 ways to think about regrets, inspired by a psychologist named Daniel Pink's book, The Power of Regrets, and how to healthily work through regrets so that you can move on from rumination because it is so exhausting and boring. So, if you're new here, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, the Boundary Boss Workbook, and the forthcoming Too Much, a guide to breaking the cycle of high-functioning codependency. Right there. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to move this so you can. There's my new book right there. This is coming out October 15th, and I cannot wait. So many of you have said you cannot wait. So please go pre-order it right now. You can get it at hfcbook.com. That's HFC, like high functioning codependency, book.com. There's a whole bunch of bonuses that if you pre-order, you will have access to the bonuses throughout the entire book launch, which is basically the next 6 months. So before we get started, if you are new here, please introduce yourself because everyone is very friendly here. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you get notified every time I roll out something new, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday. And since I do it for you, I want to make sure that you know all about it. Thank you so much for all of your interactions and your questions. I love to highlight your comments because I read them all, as you know. So this comment is from Chrissy Cobain, 8361. And this is under the video, Unsatisfied in Life, a 6-step process to live in more fulfillment. And Chrissy says, I love this session. All of your sessions are wholly insightful and inspiring. You have helped me in more ways than one, and I thank you so much for everything you help us with and offer to us. I'm learning so much and have so much gratitude. Well, thank you, Chrissy Cobain. I really appreciate you taking the time to say so. It really does warm my heart. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so let's move it on into today's episode, shall we? I think we shall. So let's start with, what is regret? Like, what actually is it? We all hear it. We all think we know what it is, but it's really just wishing you had done something differently, wishing you hadn't done something, right? Or that you'd reacted differently. But from that place, if we keep it just that simple, there's really nowhere to go. It just sucks, right? We're just like, well, I wish I hadn't done that, and I feel ashamed or embarrassed. The end. But it doesn't have to be the end, right? I mean, obviously, it feels like that because what we cannot do is get into a time machine, travel back in time and do something differently for that particular experience, right? So ruminating and just sort of wallowing in our regrets is not helpful for what we want to do in our lives. And it's so bad for your physical health, your mental health. It creates all this anxiety. So what is productive and healing, right, is to be willing to get your hands dirty. In any crap stew, as I like to say, there are always gems of wisdom for ourselves if we're willing to get our hands dirty, meaning we actually have to do the work. So I invite you to take a look at your regrets. And I'm going to walk you through the process. And I have a whole guide for you, terricole.com/guide, as I always do, which will help you take the steps so you don't have to worry about taking extensive notes. But I want you to get curious about your regrets. And can you become curious without being judgmental? Right? That is the question. I get so many questions. I'm going to actually cover some of them, and then we're going to move into the 4 types of regrets there are. But one question that came in, how do you deal with the pain of regret? And I basically say the best way to deal with the pain of regret is to have a deeper understanding of why you feel regretful in the first place, right? Allow yourself to feel all of those feelings. Stop running away from the feeling, because it's so easy to just be like, that's in the past, I don't want to deal with it. But if you're feeling regretful, it's really not. It's really in your present, right? So it's not in the past just yet. Is there anything to be gained, gleaned, understood from breaking down what happened, having a better understanding of why you made the decision that you did, rather than wallowing in the pain of the regret itself? Another question I get is, what is the root cause of regret? So we have to look at it from a psychological standpoint, right? It could be, I think it's possible that it's our brain's way of protecting us and encouraging us to examine our choices. Those choices might be causing sort of some kind of a negative ripple effect or outcome in our lives. And another thing, that this can be learned behavior too, right? You might be a regretter from a long line of regretters, that if you saw this modeled behavior in childhood of someone's attitude about life, like kind of I could have been a contender, but I didn't go for it, right? Living in that regret. The parents or the caregiver who talks about like the one that got away, right? The one relationship they should have, but they didn't. And it keeps you stuck in a period of time. And that regretting, there's no processing. It's almost the same way that trauma gets stuck. These are smaller traumas a lot of times, but we still get stuck in that place and space in time, which is not good for our life now. It's not good for what we're doing now. So let's talk about, there are 4 foundational types of regret, according to the work of scientist, and he's a behavioral scientist. And he wrote a book called The Power of Regret, How Looking Backward Moves Us Forward. His name is Daniel Pink. The 4 core types of regrets that he talks about are foundation regrets. And these are regrets that are things that you sort of chose younger in your life, but sort of negatively impact the rest of your life. So you might regret not taking better care of yourself. Maybe in your younger life, you smoked and drank and ate badly, and then you ended up getting a disease later in life and being sick later in life. Maybe you didn't exercise or eat well, and then you had failing health later in life. That's a foundational regret, because you can definitely still do things to change it, but it's major and it happened decades ago. So it's basically foundational regrets. They can also be related to education, finance decisions, relationship decisions, can all be foundational regrets. Then we have boldness regrets. Now, these are regrets that can result from letting fear dictate what you do, right? Playing small in life and not taking advantage of the opportunities that have been presented to you or were afforded to you because you're too afraid. So that's a boldness regret. And then there's moral regret. And these are the hardest ones, I think. When we've really done the wrong thing, right? Where taken the wrong path or made bad decisions, these can be really hard. It could be cheating on your taxes, getting caught for fraud, or not even getting caught, right? Just knowing that you did that. Cheating on a spouse. I think moral regrets really has to do with our ethics and our values. If we're acting outside of them, what ultimately happens is we ruminate. We have regrets. We wish we could change it. But instead of that, we can learn from it, And the 4th one is connection regrets. And this is regrets in like letting relationships fall by the wayside, neglecting a relationship, waiting too long to reconnect with someone, and maybe they pass away, or maybe you just never become close again, and you have that regret, like, why didn't I reach out on their birthday, or why didn't I go to that vacation they invited me to? It's really about like connection regrets are where we've dropped the ball, not nurtured a relationship. And then sometimes that actually results in the dissolution of the relationship. And this can also stem from not doing things that should have been done in a relationship and feeling guilty. I've seen in my therapy practice, people coming in and realizing that there were so many things they could have done to nurture their relationship, but they didn't. And them having regrets about not doing it, because it gets to the point where it's too late and then the relationship ended. But when we think about like what we can actually do, you can make changes in your life, right? You can, in a productive and healing way, break down your regrets and go, okay, because according to Pink and this book that I read, 82% of Americans report feeling regret at least occasionally. This is part of the human condition because we are complex. Our lives are complex. We have, it's like I feel like I have decision fatigue every day. There's so many choices and so many things to do. We're faced with so many decisions and choices. It can be difficult to sort of always make the right one, especially if you're in a bad frame of mind or exhausted or whatever. So in this way, we can use our regrets as important data points, right? Information that we can learn from the past and then proceed in a different way. If we're rude, if we cut someone off in line, if we take our anger out at a customer service rep, let's just say, and regret it later, we can either try to make amends, we can literally. I've actually had that happen. I had this whole interaction with someone at a car rental place in LA where this guy was getting loud and it was really activating me because I don't like anger and I don't like anything out of control. And especially in a public space, I was like, what is happening? And so then I kind of got loud. And then we had words, and then in a little bit, I said, I'm sorry for being rude like that. You being loud and aggressive was really scary to me, and I'm sorry. And he was like, I'm sorry too. It was really, I swear, it was like really like healing to actually say, I just got choked up kind of, like to actually say it in the moment. Instead of storming off or stomping away, there was something that I didn't want to walk away from that with that regret. And so I didn't. I did sort of explode myself. His anger exploded my anger, but I'm responsible for the way that I responded. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a good example of being able to handle it in the moment and not walking away with a regret. But if you can't make amends in the moment, you could journal, right? You could write about it and show yourself compassion, right? Make a decision like, hey, I'm going to handle my stuff. I'm going to really work to not do that. Again, I used to be way more explosive in my younger life. I was way more of a hothead than I am now because being that way really made me feel ashamed. I would walk away and then I would ruminate and be like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Why did you act like that? That's so, like I didn't have the ability at that point in my life to look at the behavior or the regret itself with compassion, with curiosity, right? Because this is really what changes the game. Can you possibly look at that experience with your regrets with compassion and curiosity? Because you will gain so much information about yourself, about the why, right? We always we're driven by a reason. It's funny when it's other people, we want so much, or maybe I'm just talking about me, depending on if it's people I disagree with what they think or whatever it is, to just be like, well, they're idiots. You know what? They're just as complex as I am. And if they're idiots, then I'm an idiot too, So I feel like the start of a more compassionate world is us having more curiosity and compassion for ourselves, especially when we have regrets. And then we can extend that out, almost like a meta meditation to other folks. So when you want to work through your regrets, right, this is what we're looking to do. Instead of staying stuck in rumination, being judgmental towards ourselves, really, obviously, I don't need to tell you that rumination doesn't serve you because it's so obvious that it doesn't. And it's almost like there's a part of us that feels like if I think about it enough or relive it enough, that will ensure that I won't do it again. But that's not what ensures that you won't do it again. Your deeper understanding of why it happened in the first place, that is the key to it not happening again. You not wanting it to happen again is the key. And I feel like I've heard from so many of you, and you are so mean. You are so punitive to yourself. You're feeling deeply ashamed and guilty about what you've done. And I understand it. I have my own shame and guilt about mistakes I've made and things I've done and just being mean at different points or whatever. But I really want you to know that this does not help you get better, right? So it's not about, you've got to have compassion, which means you can't be stuck in that blame game with yourself. So I want you to think about it this way. Having compassion and viewing this with curiosity is a way for you to get better, not do it again, be healthier. It's not a way of like, quote unquote, letting yourself off the hook, because I feel like a lot of you come from that point of view of like, if I quote unquote forgive myself, then I'm letting myself off the hook. And first of all, you deserve to be let off the hook, so please do. But do it with the commitment to learning something about yourself. I had all the reasons in the world, I have all the reasons, to be a bit anti-anger, like to not like it. So you have to know your own triggers. You have to understand the way that you're wired. And then there's got to be some latitude that we give to ourselves, you know? So in the book, don't worry, in the guide, I give you all these steps, but I'm just going to walk you through some of them. I want you to notice where your regrets tend to come up the most, right? Where is it? Is it, if you look at those 4 categories that I gave you, which will also be in the guide, are you having more connection regrets? Is it more of the moral regrets? What is it that comes up most for you? Because that will help you figure out where to focus your attention. Becoming self-aware. We have to be able to identify when we start to ruminate so we can interrupt the pattern. You can interrupt the pattern with a little rubber band snapping on your wrist and saying, that not helpful, moving on, right? When you start ruminating, you can simply say, moving on to the next. Like, it's okay. You're already processing it. You don't need to ruminate. You can choose to do something differently, and that's the empowering piece. And process your experience as a compassionate observer, right? Imagine that you're watching a movie, right? Or of the negative interaction and experience, right? See yourself and anyone else in the memory with an express desire to understand yourself, your reactions, your responses, right? Really like that's your actual desire, is deeper understanding. You can journal, right? About your experiences is super helpful. And it is healthy to look at your 50% of the interaction, like I did with that guy in the car rental place, right? Half of it was him making a ruckus in a public place. I don't think that was the greatest. But then the other 50% was me reacting and what I said and what I did. So really looking at it, because once we figure out what that is, then we can decide if there's any further action that makes sense that we can take. Right? Do we need to make amends? Do we need to apologize to someone? Should we reach out? Should we connect with someone? Reestablish trust with yourself again, right? By going through this process, you're also saying, I trust you, meaning yourself, to do the right thing, right? Maybe you need to sign up for a 12-step program, right? Maybe you need to find a therapist. Maybe you need to get a coach. I don't know. But by really looking at this honestly, I feel like you can make those decisions and take those actions. And also knowing what you want to get out of it. Why do we want to have a deeper understanding of our regrets? Because we don't want to do it again, right? It's not just like a quick fix, right? Let's really look and give yourself the expansion to sit with the discomfort, looking at the mistakes that I've made in my life. Like, for so long, I would just run away from them. I would be like, I did the best I could. That's it, And then when I really got into therapy and was able to look and go, I could do it differently. And I hope that I'll do it differently next time. Let me have a deeper understanding and compassion for myself in this process. And then if I need to make amends, I can. Because you guys, it is so powerful to not spend your time, your energy, your youth, and your beauty ruminating about that has happened in the past that you cannot get into a time machine and change. So let's focus on the super empowering actions of changing the things we can change, which reminds me, of course, of the Serenity Prayer, because it's so true. And there is so much wisdom in accepting that you can't get in a time machine and changing what you can, which means changing future interactions, doing something different. So I would love to know if this resonated with you. Remember, my brand new book coming out in October, pre-sale happening right now. For nice, fat, amazing bonuses, go to hfcbook.com. That is hfcbook.com, and please order, because it really does help me. If we get a lot of pre-orders, it tells the booksellers that you guys want to learn about high-functioning codependency, and I hope that you do. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.